So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the ADHD Reframe project with me, host Emma Craven. This is season 2, episode 6, I believe. Um, don't kind of quote me on that because I could be wrong, but I think it is. And today the guest is Kayleigh. So, Kayleigh, would you like to give us a little bit of an introduction to you, please?
Love to. So thank you so much for having me, Emma. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone. My name is Kayleigh Johnstone. I'm a neurospicy mum of two, entrepreneur, and I support other neurospicy entrepreneurs with pretty much everything they need in business. I've got a membership for, again, neurospicy, although sometimes undiagnosed, virtual assistants. And I have recently turned 40, so I'm dealing with that along with everything else.
Congratulations. Happy birthday. Um,
Thank you.
yeah.
Actually just last week, so there's still balloons everywhere.
Woohoo! Well, happy 40th birthday for last week then. Um, yeah, so you're kind of getting into the perimenopause stage of your life, unfortunately.
It may have been mentioned once or twice. There may have been the occasional hot flush, but as you may possibly know, certain medications that certainly that I'm on for ADHD don't help with temperature regulation either. So I'll go from really comfortable to I'm sweating in the Sahara. It's not fun.
Exactly. And then yeah, so I mean, I turned 50 last year, and yeah, the perimenopause and the menopause is not pleasant. So I kind of completely and utterly understand. It's like you just all of a sudden you get hit with all of these kind of extra things, and it's like, and for me, I've done quite a bit of research around it. And for us, our estrogen is directly responsible for the dopamine release in our brain. So this is why a lot more women are getting diagnosed during perimenopause, because the symptoms they've managed to mask or, just cope um just the rest of their lives. And then all of a sudden, like, the hormones start dropping, and here we are, you're getting smacked in the face and you can't really manage anymore. So yeah, it's just,
It's
for
so
me.
much fun, isn't it, being a woman? We have all of this. We have our late diagnosis. Um, I know my own personal situation. I'm not alone. I'm also the parent of an 11-year-old. So we've got her hormones and her diagnoses going alongside my own. It's a fun house to be in, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, a spicy households. I just call us this. We're just a house full of spectrum autisms. Just my partner's definitely autistic. He's not diagnosed. He's self-diagnosed diagnosed by me. Obviously, I'm not medically trained, but he's definitely autistic. My daughter is 27 now. She's a midwife. She works at our local hospital, and she is definitely autistic, and she's definitely got ADHD. But because her ADHD doesn't present the same as mine does, she doesn't think that she has it, but she does. But it's just, she's never going to get diagnosed. But she talks about the monologue in her brain. She talks about the busy head. She talks a lot. I think, by me just sitting and talking to her about ADHD is actually making her see that maybe, but I don't think she'll ever be diagnosed. But anyway, it's not fun. An 11-year-old starting their period soon, and we think it's
Added to which,
horrible.
yeah, it is interesting though what you say, isn't it, about like your daughter's presentation of it. So I've got two siblings. All three of us have ADHD. I am diagnosed autistic. My sister is going through the process, and my brother, we all suspect. And the three of us could not be more different. And I suspect there's gender-based roles in there. There's the fact that I'm the eldest, my sister is the youngest. That massively comes into it because ADHD or not, I needed to achieve. Do you know what I mean? Eldest child.
Yeah, horrible.
And I do think it all comes into it massively as well. But like my daughter and I, we have the same diagnosis, AuDHD, but like she's so ADHD coded and I am so autistic coded. It is unreal. And the clashing is like this. And I think that's obviously one of the reasons that it has been historically so difficult to diagnose over the years, and why people like you and me have had to fight so hard and wait so long for it to be recognized as actually, we haven't had it easy. We've been struggling.
And all of our lives been struggling as well. And it's weird for me personally because I actually didn't know. I didn't suspect. until I was promoted at work, and a different lady sat next to me, and we're in the office one day. The listeners have heard this story probably in nearly every episode, but it's my journey. We're in the office one day, and she just put her arm on me, on mine, and she said, "Do you know you've got ADHD, Emma, don't you?" And I was laughed in her face, literally. I'm so embarrassed when I say that bit, because I had the stereotypical, I'm not a little boy, I'm not being disruptive, I'm not kind of hyperactive and stuff. And I was like, no, no. And then about a week later, she printed off like a questionnaire thing and casually put it on the desk. And I just went into the office, looked at it, put it in my drawer, and then turned around and smiled at her. She was on that side. That's why smiled at her that way. And then there was maybe a few weeks after that I was in the office on my own, and I took it out and filled it in, and it was like 98%, like 98% you have ADHD. And I was like, oh my God, like, I've ADHD. What? And it took me kind of maybe a month or two to process that. And then I went to the doctors and was referred quite quickly, because it was before the kind of long waiting list that we're in at the moment, for people that are waiting to be diagnosed. So yeah, what was your diagnosis journey like then, Kayleigh?
So mine was, I was really very lucky actually. So I was diagnosed just over a year ago now. And the reason I'd come to it, I'd never thought I had anything, like literally never. But then we started to suspect with my daughter, and started that journey for her, did all the research, watched all the TikTok videos. And as you're watching the videos, you're going, that's familiar. Oh yeah, I resonate with that. Yes, yes, yes. And you start to think, well, I know there's a genetic component. This is all really familiar. But then, of course, as you know it, you go, no, I'm just talking myself into this, or I'm just being arrogant, or it's ego, or, stop self-diagnosing. We actually went to my daughter's in-person appointment, and it was really great and comprehensive. And they do a parent interview. And throughout that, it was so pointed. Mrs. Johnstone, have you ever considered pursuing a diagnosis? The subtitle was quite clearly, why on earth haven't you? Please go and do so. And I was like, no, but I will. And then, like, you did the questionnaires, scored very highly. And I actually can't remember. I think I'd actually went forward for an autism diagnosis, because that was what really resonated, because I'm not hyperactive really. And it was throughout that process, they were like, we're gonna assess you for both. I went through right to choose, and my right to choose provider happened to do both. They said, we're going to do you for both. Got the autism diagnosis, and then came back with a positive, very highly scoring inattentive ADHD diagnosis. And as we all know, inattentive ADHD goes under the radar, doesn't it? Constantly. I actually think they need to drop hyperactive almost from the title, and then just have different profiles, because again, my daughter's hyperactive as the stereotypical naughty schoolboy, whereas I'm inattentive. And when they sort of gave me that diagnosis, I was like, surely not, surely not. And then they read out all the reasons why they'd given it, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, tick that box. Again, I was really, really fortunate. I was off a medication, titrated quickly, and I've been on it for a year, and that has transformed my life. Been absolutely amazing. But 2 years ago, I'd have never said I was ADHD, let alone enough to have medication. Yeah, and that is my diagnosis journey, AuDHD, and I have well and truly leaned into it, embrace it, and I'm grateful for it, because it just explains stuff. Now I don't look back and go, you were the problem, you didn't fit in, and now it's you didn't fit in because.
Because yeah,
So very healing.
yeah. And a lot of people that I speak to, some say that they grieved, or they were angry because they weren't diagnosed sooner, and how different their life could be. Did you experience any of them things, or was it just?
So my personal feelings, no. I've got family and friends who have gone through that, so I recognize it very clearly. Um, Again, very fortunate in that my life was pretty good, is pretty good. So I didn't feel as though a diagnosis or lack thereof had held me back. Like, I figure I had to go on this journey for things to work out the way they have, and therefore I wouldn't change it. I have quite a philosophical approach to life from that perspective. I don't know if I'd have known, would it have changed my parenting journey? Would I have maybe decided not to have children? Or would I not have been the support my daughter needed? Or do you know what I mean? So I sort of go, life is working out the way it's meant to. I'm really grateful now that I'm in this, people call it the goddess era, don't they, when they turn 40. I'm very grateful that whatever has happened in my life, I was able to strike it out as an entrepreneur. Before I even knew I needed to, I was able to create a world where I fit in. And now I help others to create the world where they fit in. And a year and a half post diagnosis, I can go, wow, that's worked out for the best, hasn't it? And occasionally I'm forced back into other people's worlds, it's a really stark reminder of what it could have been like, what it was like once, and to the point where of it does feel like bullying, even when it's not, just because the difference is so great, because I fit in even less than I once did, because I don't really mask anymore. I'm just like, hey, well, this is me. But then I get to run back to my safe little world of the people who I fit in perfectly with, because we're all as spicy as each other. So I just see it as I'm lucky. I regret nothing, and I'm very lucky for that.
I think as well that, because I have given it quite a lot of thought, how different would my life have been if I'd have known sooner. The fact of the matter is, like, I try and just settle on, I didn't know sooner. And as soon as I did know, I did something about it. And like, I've had a lot of trauma from my childhood, from, my lifetime, even being bullied as an adult and stuff. And I just think I couldn't really explain to people why I did things differently, but now I can. So then now I make sure that I don't over explain, but I will advocate for myself and for lots and lots of other people as well. Like, advocacy is my thing. But I just think since I was diagnosed, I've built my life around having ADHD and being late diagnosed. And I think that's really kind of, I don't really think about how my life would have been before I was diagnosed. If I had have been diagnosed sooner, I've had to make peace with the fact that I didn't get diagnosed until I was 43. So that's my journey. And now I am diagnosed. How do I then, change my life and build it in a way that's suitable for me, like you naturally did before you were diagnosed, and even more so after you were diagnosed. So yeah, I try not to look back at the past with anger, really, because it doesn't have a purpose. I don't think, for me anyway, it doesn't. I just want to focus on what's happening now and what can I do with, how can I change things going forward. So we talked a little bit before I hit record around siblings and, symptomology and how different the symptoms are between men and girls and boys. I didn't know if you wanted to just talk a little bit about that for now.
Yeah,
Now,
just as we mentioned before, I do find it fascinating. I know it's something you're interested in as well, and it is why, again, perhaps there's very little anger there from me, because I recognize how hard it is to diagnose when the symptoms fall on such a broad spectrum. They have such a broad impact on people's lives. And as referenced with my own sibling environment, like, gender comes into it, but place of birth, as in like eldest, youngest, middle, that comes into it as well. The type of parents we have come into it as well. Trauma affects it massively, because some trauma will mimic neurospiciness, neurodiversity will cause trauma. Like, it is also intertwined. So, and now that we know, I do think there is an enormous piece of medical work to do to sort of almost separate it out, to figure out these various parts of the spectrum, these profiles of what I would say is ADD, as mentioned, um, and how it can manifest in schools, and how our school environment is already designed to suppress any signs of ADHD and autism. And the people it suppresses the most is girls and young women. And I've seen this firsthand with my own daughter's schooling. She was literally labeled as, she's just a bit naughty. And I had to fight and fight and fight some more for the diagnosis. Then she ends up with a dual diagnosis and they go, oh, well, we'll give her some support now. It's just, it's ridiculous. And, you know, we're meant to be a support-led society, not a diagnosis-led one. So where is that in practice? Why aren't we seeing that? Um, it doesn't really matter what happened in my family 30 years ago or anyone else's family 30 years ago, or that your brother was diagnosed and you weren't. If we make the changes today to say, like, I understand why we've got rid of the title, the name, but I do think having Asperger's as a separate diagnosis was very helpful in as much as autism is this massive broad spectrum ranging from what I would say is not really disabled at all to extremely disabled, needing lifelong support. And it isn't helpful to anyone for me to be able to say I'm autistic and then someone else who is going to need that lifelong support to have the same label. And that's another reason why it gets overlooked at school level, at nursery level, because we expect it to be this enormous thing. And actually then we ignore those that are just sort of quietly drowning in the corner.
Yeah. And even, you know, I think autism definitely that's more um, relevant that because I keep getting told regularly that I'm also autistic, but I doubt very much I'd get a diagnosis. But mine's kind of sensory noises, smells, just people too busy. If I'm around too many people, I get really easily overwhelmed and stuff. But I think, you know, primarily for children or girls in school, I think it's important for them to kind of know that they've got a place in an environment where they can be themselves and they can just show up as themselves. And I can imagine that in the school system in this country, there's not a lot of that at the moment.
No, no, not at all. And what does exist has to be fought for, really hard won. And that's and again, often we're dealing with a parent with their own diagnoses, and it's such a struggle to do the normal day-to-day stuff, let alone fight a system that is murky, that is obstructive. Um, and I would like to caveat to say every single individual I've ever met within that system wants to make it work for the child. It's the system that then blocks them doing their jobs and the child or person getting support. But you know, you reference schools as an environment, like, and people say, oh, you know, why have the diagnoses gone up so much? You know, surely they're not real. They're not real. Well, they are real, but also over the last 20, 30 years, we have created a world that is sensory overload. We have created a noise of bright lights and smells and and noise and stuff that passes by in 7 seconds, you know, social media. And is it any wonder that people are able to cope less and therefore diagnoses are increasing to the extent they are? Well, to an extent, I'm not saying the disorder is man-made, it's not, but I'm saying we have made a world that is far harder for that disorder to survive in.
With social media as well, there's a lot more kind of I call it awareness, but there's people know more about, you know, through influencers and stuff that talk about ADHD and autism. There's a lot more awareness around it, so then that will impact the diagnosis is, and you know that will impact a lot. There's a lot of misinformation out there on social media, so yeah, I think it's there's a little bit of a balance kind of, and then the information you can find on social media primarily seems to be negative rather than positive, and that's one of my bugbears. I think. Have you experienced that? Do you think social media is more negative? Do you think it's been a positive?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because our social media, our algorithms are what we make them, aren't they? Well, we build our FYP brick by brick, and mine is largely very positive and very affirming. I found it very useful and illuminating to recognize myself in the stuff, but then I was actively searching. I was actively searching for ways to help. Um, what was at that time a seven-year-old, 8-year-old, you know. So I was looking for the things that were coming up on my feed. Um, I think it can be really useful for, firstly, yes, helping people to identify, and then also, more importantly, probably normalizing it, like saying, you know, it is how you feel. You want to go out socially, but then you want to cancel last minute, and then you are absolutely exhausted and you're rehearsing what to say. So many of us don't realize that the whole world isn't doing that. So, sort of going, oh, actually, okay. maybe that is a bit unusual, but also it's okay to be that way. And therefore, I'm more self accepting, and therefore, I can learn coping strategies. I think for that, it's brilliant. I do think for certain individuals, it goes too far and they go, oh, I like making lists, therefore I must be autistic. Well, no, there's a little bit more criteria to it than that, like, so, but that's very much down to the individual rather than what we choose to consume on socials. Um, it's a difficult one. I think the worst thing about social media is it's just destroyed attention spans, some of which were very limited anyway, and it's taught us to, or it's whatever the opposite of teaching. It's enabled the ability to focus on something for more than 10 seconds at a time, and it's like, well, no, we probably need to work on that particular skill. And that is one of the things I refer to when I say the world itself has become a sensory nightmare. Like, I get assistance in airports because airports are one of my absolute worst places to be. Um, but I can't imagine there's that many people that enjoy them or think it is a good environment to be in. So it's like, well, why can't we just change the environment? COVID was great for that space between people. Bloody loved that. Let's bring that back. 1 meter social distancing. Why can't we have that?
Me and my partner both say that we'd only been together and he'd moved in a few months before COVID hit. And, because of his autism and his social anxiety, he said that, the COVID was perfect because there was no pressure to leave the house. We had to stay indoors. We couldn't invite people around for celebrations. And, there was no kind of expectation of, obviously there is, you had to stay in because people were dying and there was this horrendous kind of, disease that was ravaging the whole world. But I think from an autistic point of view for him and his social anxiety point of view, I think it really kind of helped him because there was no pressure to kind of go and do things or be a certain way. And I do think there's, I worry about the younger generation now because a lot of social media seems to be around instant gratification or a lot of comparing. You compare yourself to these, to whoever the influencers are or the YouTubers or whatever. And there's I think, a lot of mental health and, well-being that's significantly impact from social media. So, yeah, I don't know if that might just be my opinion, but I do think that it is, particularly for younger kids these days who grow up on social media and then they don't know how to communicate kind of offline, which is, that in itself is a little bit worrying, don't you think?
100%. I 100% do. And I think, especially for those that are ADHD coded, social media and IMing and stuff, it allows for that instant gratification. It allows for that dopamine chasing, whether good or bad. And I've seen this so many times in in the peer groups that my children are involved with. And it is that if they can't get the nice response, they will happily chase the argument because it is instant, it is dopamine. Things can be said far too fast. Once they're there, to an extent, they're there forever or can be there forever. And all of that is really, really negative from a young person whose brains are still so developing anyway, let alone a young person with one of these disorders that does render them emotionally a few years behind their neurotypical peers. And we see this a lot with the ADHD girls. They want to keep up with their friends that aren't having those same difficulties, but they can't do it. They don't understand the social nuance. And as a result, they make some quite big mistakes. And social media allows those mistakes to be instant, repeated, and shared with the world. Like this social media ban, while I am so for it, couldn't come soon enough. I wish it had come in sooner. Why aren't we putting more pressure on the social media platforms? Like, why is it just about, right, parents were putting in this ban and now you have to fight with your children about putting in the correct birthday and stuff? But why aren't we saying, TikTok, do better with your content? Why aren't we saying, it's so easy to get around certain words? Why aren't we trying harder to limit them, to restrict them? Why aren't we genuinely creating social media that is child and teen safe? Because they need to be able to message their friends. They need to be able to communicate. They need to be able to use phones for their bus passes. So we have to take a realistic approach while keeping them safe. And it just doesn't happen. Like, and I find that very infuriating as a parent and someone who remembers very well what being 14 was like and how much worse it would have been with a phone, with TikTok or YouTube, you know?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok specifically has been um, named as the platform that spreads misinformation about ADHD. A lot of the information that is shared on there, apparently, I don't know, because I don't really use TikTok. I'm more of a Facebook or an Instagram person. I do have a TikTok account, but yeah, it's just I don't. If something's too kind of, it's not that it's too complex or that it's too much to work out, but if it doesn't seem, it's weird for me. If it doesn't seem like it's super easy for me to just use, then it doesn't exist for me. And TikTok's one of them things. And I know someone did some like research a few months ago, or maybe last month. I have no concept of time with my ADHD. I say this happened a little while ago. It could be last year. It could be 5 years ago. It could be whenever. But I think the TikTok thing is more recent. Someone did some research on TikTok content, and there was a bigger percentage of it being misinformation around ADHD than it was the correct information about ADHD. And that's just ADHD. I'm not including kind of autism and stuff. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I worry about social media and the young kids, and like, I just worry that, um, they're kind of being online all the time, and them not being able to communicate when you're face to face with somebody because you haven't necessarily learnt them skills because all of your life is spent either, virtually or messaging or whatever, always online and videos and stuff. And I do worry, and I think, unfortunately, what I notice regularly is now the children or the young adults, young people, I think is the right words to call them, they're being tarnished with uh, having autism because they've never been taught how to communicate face to face. And I'm not saying that that's exactly happening for everybody, but there's maybe a growing trend when it comes to things like that communication and not being able to talk to someone when you're face to face with them, or not even given like the the tools and the to just not talk on a video. I know we're talking on a video today, so obviously I'm a little bit I'm obviously being a little bit hypocritical because obviously we can only meet online, but I do worry that there's lots of thousands of young people in the UK or globally, millions, that are, you know, being diagnosed when in fact they they might just need a little bit of help with, learning how to communicate, or not be on your phone or not be on social media all the time. So
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, so yeah, we've lost some social niceties, haven't we? Partly through, I think, cultural shift. I think COVID did play a massive part. The world did move more online, but equally, you've referenced you and I being on video now, but we are still adhering to appropriate social norms in as much as, neither of us are visibly anyway playing with anything, although I will say I've got my wee fidget spinner handy. But
yeah,
we're, we're taking care to, look into camera, to not be distracted doing something else. And that's probably a bit of a battle for both of us, because I'm sure we'd both love to be allowing our natural inclination for distraction. And I like to spin in my chair. It's a fight not to. But the reason I'm not, because I know it's not the done thing. And conditions aside, we still need to be teaching and demonstrating those social norms. I've said recently, in the car, like, we're going to have the car, unless it's a long journey, as phone free time, because we'll use that time to chat. And it's actually easier to chat because no one's looking directly at each other. You're a spicy family, makes it easier. Um, and that is just one of those small things. I did read, I think it was actually a book advertisement, but it was something around how children do not know how to make an introduction. They don't know how to say, "Hi, I'm Name." They really don't know how to introduce someone else. "Hi, I'm Name, and this is Name too." And I just found that really interesting. And I'm a little bit privileged in as much as it's not something that I've really come across in my own family, whether it is the tism or my own upbringing or whatever. I'm a bit of a stickler for certain. Well, I guess it's what would have been called manners when we
Yeah.
were growing up to an extent. And I don't love what I perceive as using diagnoses as an excuse. And again, I will caveat with saying that only applies to those who can help it. Just because I don't adore making eye contact because I know I struggle with it doesn't mean I can't force myself to when it is the appropriate thing to do. Just because I desperately want to interrupt every single person with a story of how I had the same experience doesn't mean that I can't prevent myself. And I don't even class that as masking. I class that as following social norms for the place you are. And I think that's actually still super important for us to teach our children and young people who are capable to still adhere to those social norms, even if conditions make it challenging. Have I made sense there? Because I feel like I kind
No,
of
that makes
rambled a bit.
perfect sense. Yeah. No, you didn't. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, of course, perfect sense. I mean, I don't like looking in people's eyes, and obviously, as we're talking, I look at you. I don't even really look at me. I just try because then I'm trying to, that social norm that you'd look at someone when you're talking to them, or you wait your turn to kind of to speak, or you know, it's weird because if I'm around, so if we weren't recording today, then I would just, not kind of, it's almost like it's an unwritten rule that if, I'm with people that I feel and that's not because I don't feel comfortable with you, because I do. But if I'm with my friends or if I feel comfortable, then, I'd just be me. But unfortunately, because it's not widely accepted with the social norms that you can interrupt, that you can talk a million miles an hour, that you can go off on a million tangents, or that you have to look people in the eyes when you're talking to them and all of that jazz. It's like I often feel like we need to learn, and it is a challenge sometimes. We need to kind of show more authenticity so then people do understand that no, I don't really like looking at people when I talk to them. I don't really like making eye contact face to face with people because it makes me feel uncomfortable, but I will do it. But it's just, what is the cost of kind of, adhering to these norms when because it's exhausting. Like, I hate small talk. For me, small talk is it's almost like a physical pain. Like, I just can't. I can't. And so now I will advocate for myself and for anyone else that's like me, and just say, listen, small talk is just no. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Like, obviously, I do small talk because that it's well mannered, isn't it? That was drummed into me by my grandma as a young child. Always remember your please and thank yous. Always kind of, the kind of things that, as for us, societal norms that I've forgotten what I was going to say now. So
I
my
totally know.
brain
I'm
is
agreeing
just
with everything you
gone
said.
blank.
And
Like, my brain is just
I'm agreeing with
buffering.
everything. Like it's contextual though, isn't it? So I'm the same as you. When I'm around certain friends, it is a million miles an hour, everyone tumbling over each other. We'll start at A, we'll end up at Z17 very, very quickly. And at some point one of us will go, oh, A. And it's great. But we all know that. That is our social norm. And I think that's the difference. And that's why it's really important because again, raising two young people as well, it is a real balance between I don't want to raise them to feel they have to mask. I don't want to raise them to exhaust themselves, but I do want them to be aware of social norms and constructs because that will make their lives easier. But at the same time, I want them to make them aware of it in a way that this is what's expected. This might be hard for you. So in order to make it easier for you, we're going to time limit it, or you should create your environments where it's not necessary all the time. Or we go, right, so because we know that we've just put you in a situation where you had to mind your P's and Q's and you had to sit quite still, now we're going to go and have an absolutely mad 2 hours in the garden. And it's that planning for it, but teaching them as well, because again, there's environments where they're going to have to be still and quiet in their lives. If they ever went to a funeral, they're probably going to have to be still and quiet. but I don't want them to not participate because it's going to exhaust them or because they feel like they're masking. So how do we accommodate for it? Okay, well, we save up lots of spoons in advance, and afterwards we clear our diary so we have no pressures whatsoever, just knowing we have those challenges, I think, is part of it. And like even here you referenced about us turn taking. It's the environment, because both you and I know that if we were falling all over each other, the recording probably wouldn't be that great for people to listen to. So therefore we're going, right, we moderate ourselves. And after this, we might both go and just be like,
Yep.
tell our partners everything we recorded. But because we have that awareness and knowledge of ourselves, I personally find that I don't need to, there's no self-hatred, there's no guilt. I don't need to beat myself up and go, oh, I'm absolutely exhausted now. Why am I exhausted? It was only a 1 hour podcast. It's like, well, no, because you were meeting your social norms, and not my social norms. I think it's that balance, isn't it? That's important. That's going, I don't want you to mask, but on the odd occasion, meeting social norms, how are you going to accommodate for those before and after? And that's a bloody hard balance to teach a preteen and a young teenager, because it makes no sense whatsoever. But I do still think it's very important to do. Otherwise, we'll end up with a generation of people that never lets anyone else speak and is constantly staring at their phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I am guilty of using my, scrolling on my phone if I leave the house, if I'm waiting anywhere, because I don't like waiting. I'm very, very impatient. I start bouncing off the wall. So, in that moment, I regulate myself with my phone. So that is a little bit of a hypocritical kind of thing for me to now say that I think social media or whatever is bad for children. But I do love that it must be quite challenging when you've got younger children, because there's obviously social norms, but then there's also allowing them and giving them the right environment to be able to be themselves. And I love that, you are creating that for your children. So when they get to be an adult, they can then kind of be like that with their children, or I think it will just help with their general well-being, with their mental health, with their, and also you're giving them a voice to be, and the kind of safety to be themselves, and how to manage themselves when they're not necessarily always in environments that they can just be themselves. It's yeah, yeah, I think it's actually remarkable. I love the fact that you're doing that with your children, because I think
Oh,
yeah, it's
I hope
amazing.
so. We're failing at most terms, but we're trying, and that is all anyone can do. But yeah, like, so yeah, and it was hard for me. I was raised to be quite academic. I was raised that you do your homework and you earn your time off, and it's been really hard for me to adjust that and go, no, no, no. They come in from school, they need to couch potato for a good hour. They need to speak to no one. They need to decompress. They need that they need regulation time. And that was a really hard adjustment for me, but it's been the best thing for them. And once they've had that hour of regulation, then with a little bit of kindness and structure, they're able to come and engage in a meal or do some homework. Not always. And then again, I have to catch on to myself and go, hang on, how regulated are you right now? You haven't had an hour. I'm still working or whatever. But we're trying, and that's all we can do. That balance of, the world is not made for us, so make your own world, but also what do we need to do to fit into this one? And I try very hard to explain to them, school is only, I suppose it's technically till they're 16, maybe 18. Fit in, play the game, and the more you play the game now, the more you get to create the game afterwards. Because I cannot even express how lucky I feel I am, um, who has totally by chance created her own game. The world that works for me, with people that work for me, with so many people who I love, who we can interrupt each other without any hard feelings, who, if they get left on red for 2 weeks, no, it's not personal, um, who know that when I'm being direct, it is not that I'm cross or that our relationship isn't amazing. They just know I'm direct and can't soften myself if my life depended on it. Um, the freedom and luxury of that is so brilliant, and that's one of the things I try and teach not only my children but also all of the amazing women I work with. A lot of them come into my membership from some sort of trauma, usually multiple types of trauma, whether that is being undiagnosed. A lot of them come after maternity leave or having returned to work after maternity leave. They've had bad work experiences, they've had bad school experiences, and they're all sort of going, right, I'm ready to do my own thing. I need to make money. Being a virtual assistant is quite accessible. It's so many skills you can choose from. And they find me often on TikTok, so I can't knock it too much.
It's only TikTok, but yeah.
And
It's
they
all
come
right for
into
you if
this
you can
world.
find your clients on there. I'll take that one on the chin as it's you and you find your clients. So yes, okay.
It, your algorithm is what you make it. Maybe a reset button is what's needed, and you need to just watch slime videos and floristry videos and I don't know, honesty stand videos. I'm telling you about my FYP now.
Okay.
Um, but I think a lot of that, women come into this world going, I'm a mum, I don't want to go back to that job, or I didn't fit in and not quite knowing why. And then throughout being in the entrepreneurial world, and you may have experienced this yourself, they start to go, oh, I'm recognizing some of this neurospiciness. That ADHD is familiar to me. And, there's a huge percentage of entrepreneurs that do have ADHD. It's one of the reasons we become entrepreneurs, whether we know it or not. And as we learn more about it and become more immersed in that world, it makes more sense to us. And each of those women are then creating their own worlds where they fit in with clients who treat them amazingly and they're not horrible bosses, with colleagues that get the challenges that I described earlier. And I think that's so important. I think that's why podcasts like yours are so important, to add that, to normalize it, to give them that sense of community, to welcome women in. So, women and men, obviously, but I work with women, but women who have heard what you and I are discussing today and go, that rings a bell. Maybe that's opened a little door or a little window for them. I hope so.
It's exactly the reason why I started and set up and do the podcast is because I wanted to try and reach as many adults or as many people as I can just by kind of talking, being honest about my experiences and then the guests coming on and being honest with theirs. And I think that, yeah, so, I'm glad that it's giving people that ability to be able to think, wow, it's not just me, it's not just because I do this, this, and this, and maybe it is something else, and there's nothing wrong with those. We just are the way that we are, but we're not necessarily, like we've said many times, given the ability in any environment to just be ourselves. And I think so. Yeah, talk me through what you do for your business. You've mentioned the virtual assistant as well, but eventually, once I've graduated from my degree, I do want to set it up and, or I do want to find a job. So yeah, talk me through what's been your experience with employment in the past and how have you got to where you are now, please?
I will definitely talk through it, and I might challenge you very gently on the whole being an entrepreneur thing. You're an entrepreneur before you make any money doing it, but
And maybe I
I
am
will
one
leave
then.
that. Yes, well, you've set
Okay.
something up. I will leave you on that.
Okay.
I'll rewind a bit and give you my journey,
Yes,
which I
please.
have shared before on various channels, but I do love it. And again, it may resonate. Employment wise, so I've mentioned I was from quite an academic family, eldest child, high expectations, high achieving family. Was really lucky to have grown up abroad. So my family were expats. We moved first to Hong Kong and then to Singapore. So I had a very privileged upbringing, um, a very good education, and it was always just expected. Oh, I'm fidgeting now, that tells you something. It was always expected that we did well because we had all these opportunities and we did do well. Um, so I went to uni in Scotland, which is actually where I met my husband, and studied English literature with no real plan. I was always going to be either a teacher because I love kids and teaching, or a lawyer because I loved arguing. Hello, spot the signs. Um, ADHD and autism, anyone? And never really knew what I was going to do, but studied English because I loved it and I was good at it. And then when I graduated, we were in one of the recessions, so it was a case of take any job. So I got accepted onto a graduate program, which gave me, it was a retail one. So it just gave me groundings in everything from retail management, PR, da 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 da. And it was fine. I was good at it. Like this is going to sound big headed, but I'm good at most things I try and do, which again, very lucky. But I think it's that ADHD, Jill of all trades, perhaps master of none, but mistress of none. But I like that. It keeps life interesting. So I wasn't fulfilling the dream. I was working very, very hard. Again, good at it, but no big passion. And my life changed by accident when my husband and I got pregnant with our first baby, who we very sadly did lose to a full-term stillbirth. But that's, I mentioned it, and I have a philosophical view of life. I don't change the past, because without that experience, I would not have my two amazing children now. But it was going through that and then having my children in very quick succession that I was like, I can't go back to that. It was retail world. 60, 70-hour weeks. We were contracted out of the working time directive. It was like 3 weekends out of 4. It was so high stress. So an opportunity came up for me to actually go self-employed and work in something I'd never done before, to work in public relations. And again, luck, but I jumped at that. I absolutely jumped at it. And it was in doing that that I sort of was like, okay, I'm using my English skills, I'm using my writing skills, I'm using my people skills. I was very in love with it, very good at it. And I was realizing how I just didn't enjoy the job before. I hadn't quite realized how I didn't fit in yet. That comes later. So I did that. I said I was self-employed, didn't I? I wasn't properly self-employed. I was only earning, I think I started on $8.50 an hour. I think after 5 years, I was on £10 an hour, which is not a great self-employed rate, by the way. If any VAs to be are hearing this, don't worry, that is not the norm. 3 times as much is the norm. So I was doing that, and I was working with someone who I was very, very close to as a friend. And what I didn't realize throughout that time is my confidence was being totally eroded. Little snarky comments like, oh, you're not everyone's cup of tea, but you're mine, or they just don't understand you, but I do understand you. And I didn't know it was eroding my confidence until the day when we were put into the first lockdown, and I had I'm going to call it employment. It basically was terminated via email on a Saturday night. And I asked permission to swear earlier, so I'm going to go with it. I have very much a fuck you sort of party. That is a big motivator for me. So if someone was basically like, no, I don't want you to work with me, or you can't do this, that is the biggest motivator for me to go, oh, right, watch this space. So literally within that weekend, I don't know where I found it, because I said my confidence was in the gutter. I had very little faith in my abilities. I was like, I was already self-employed. I was like, I'm going to set up and offer my help to other people. So I did it over the space of a weekend. Charged £20 an hour, which I thought was so rich then. So like shocking. And other than juggling homeschooling and stuff, I think I got started proper about 6 months later. I was able to get fully booked as what is called a virtual assistant, and I was helping people in the PR world. Very quickly realized I do not like being told what to do. So I became what's called an online business manager, or an OBM, where it was very much more strategic, helping business owners, grow their businesses. My PR experience came into the mix to make it more of a visibility marketing focus. And fast forward 6 years later, my role as a virtual assistant has become a full-blown strategy and visibility agency. I realized when I got my diagnosis that pretty much all my clients were also neurospicy, diagnosed or not. So I was like, lean into it. You help neurospicy entrepreneurs. You help people with ADHD. Because I said I'm so more autistically coded. They're like two halves of a whole. So my clients have all the amazing, fantastic ideas. They want to bring podcasts into the world. They want to do amazing events. They want to run retreats. They want to start programs. They have these billions of ideas. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to choose 5 and I help make them come to life. And we do everything. I've got an amazing team, again, neurospicy women, all virtual assistants with different specialities. And it's just phenomenal. Like, I'm so lucky to be running my own business, to be supporting my family doing that, to be working with these women, and to be working with these clients, because it's fun and it's different every day. And as a fellow ADHDer, like, we need that to keep us going, don't we? The other side of what I do was, because I did so well as a VA, I was getting loads of questions. How did you do that? How did you get fully booked? What would you do in this situation? So I created a free group just on Facebook to answer those questions. And that evolved into a paid, not profit making, it is very much a labor of love, but a paid membership for virtual assistants. It is focused on women. Not everyone is a mum, but a lot our mums all have caring responsibilities. There is always something. And yeah, so and that is ongoing, and that is like my true passion. That is where I get to give back. I get to help people realize their diagnoses. I get to help them learn ways to cope with it. Like I've just had the most amazing ADHD health coach in who gave a masterclass. We do masterclasses every month. She gave a masterclass on ADHD and the menstrual cycle and our hormonal levels and how to track it and what to look for and how to manage it. And it was just like illuminating because all of us, myself included, had not tracked our cycles with our ADHD symptoms. And it was just like light bulb moment. So I'm just incredibly lucky getting to do what I love. And part of what I love is helping others realize they can do the same. And one day, hopefully, my children, if they want to be entrepreneurs, I'll be right there offering to do their marketing. So
Well,
very long answer to your question. And thank you for
no,
letting me go on about it.
I've got a few questions now, and I'm going to have to try. Usually I'd write them down, but I was so kind of focused on what you were saying. Right, so just a little bit of just a quick question. When you talk about public relations, what does that actually mean? Because I've heard of it, but I don't know what it means.
Amazing question. I'm going to be really annoying now. And I'm going
Go
to
on.
say it is literally your relationship with the public through a variety of platforms. Now, back in the day, not back in my day, before my day, that very much meant print media. It meant newspapers and magazines. So when we read an article about Richard Branson, that's him getting some PR, some press
Right.
over the last 20 years. And obviously, as the world became digital, that included TV and radio. So it was literally your public reputation, your public broadcast, your public voice. Now that includes social media, podcasts. You can extrapolate that to actually include things like your own blog and website. I don't. I think that so PR very much falls under the marketing umbrella.
Okay.
And I would say, so PR, if I were to put it in a container, I would say it is your relationship with the public as defined by the public. So it's not advertising, it's not what you pay for, it's what they would say about you. So if I were to say, okay, so Emma's this amazing podcaster that talks about ADHD, let's get you in the Telegraph in the lifestyle section talking about your experience of late diagnosis, why you're studying psychology and why you started the podcast. That subsequent article is PR. No one's paid for it other than you might have paid a PR pro to make the relationship with the journalist. The Telegraph's paid to print it, etc. But there has been no money exchange. You've not paid to decide the wording. You've not paid for an ad. You have got organic press. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Bloody love PR. And the reason I lost my job was we were specializing in travel PR. And as we know, the travel industry just collapsed in on itself. There were no jobs for anyone. But luckily, if you're good at storytelling, story sharing, relationship building, I've since done PR for coaches, bakeries, alcohol. I do a lot of alcohol brands due to my husband's job. It is all about what is the story that we have to tell to the press. And then to a little bit, what do we want to sell as well? It's a very collaborative relationship between, I'm going to tell you the story with the goal of selling something at the end.
Yeah, because I'd like to write some articles for newspapers and magazines and stuff, but I just have no. Like I'm like, women that you support. I have loads of ideas, and I'm in like the never-ending list of, I want to do this and I want to do that, and like, I want to do it. Basically, I want to change the world and reach as many people as I can, and help as many women and girls as I can, to kind of reframe their neurodivergence, ADHD, but it's not just kind of specific to ADHD. It's just all about enabling people to kind of, move away from the deficit model, and the negative model, and even the social model, I think, is outdated now because and I move towards more of the strength-based approach, because that's what I particularly like doing. I like talking about strengths. I like, kind of that reframing, but I just kind of have no clue about PR or literally anything. Like I'm just fumbling around in the dark most of the time, trying to kind of just do my best. And when you've got no kind of planning skills, or, I need someone to sit with me, even if it's virtually, and like, okay, so I want to do this. So how are you going to do that then, Emma? What are the steps? How long are you going to take to do it? And yeah, so that's why I asked the question anyway. So a virtual assistant, that's my next question. Helping women to become virtual assistants, and what does that entail, please?
Oh my gosh. So it's everything and anything. If I describe what a virtual assistant is, because AI has well and truly fucked that up for us.
Okay.
But basically, sorry, there's the swear word again. For those that don't know, literally a virtual assistant is someone who supports you in your business on a virtual/remote basis. It is a human. It is a human. The virtual part is just the remote part. So calls like this, calls over Zoom or Teams, it just means they don't need to be sat in an office with you. The assistant part, traditionally, it is what you would call traditional admin or PA or secretarial services. So inbox management, diary management, scheduling, social media scheduling, they're sort of your very core stuff. I will say, I've never done any inbox management in my bloody life.
Okay.
Because and it also, and what it has evolved to, which is so wonderful, is virtual assistant is a bit of a catch-all term for someone who does offer assistance virtually, but it can be anything. So I've referenced social media. You'll have a huge number of social media virtual assistants who will write captions. They will create graphics. They will set up social media accounts. They'll do engagements. And that's a really important thing for businesses nowadays. And it's a really hard thing to do on your own when you're already doing your zone of genius stuff. So again, it's a great thing to have a virtual assistant support with. Events is another thing. When I talk about zone of genius, okay, I'll use my bakery client. She's a great example because guess what she's off doing? She's baking cakes. She does not have time to be doing all the social media or planning cupcake parties or stuff, or researching terms and conditions for her website, or making sure that the prices are up to date. So she does the baking and takes the photos because she's the one with the cakes. And her team, or her virtual assistant, as it is, does the boring stuff. And that's sort of a really good way to put it, actually. A virtual assistant will do the boring stuff that the business owner doesn't have time, ability, or inclination to do because they're off doing the genius stuff. So the genius stuff for you is going to be public speaking, educating, supporting, but you probably will not have time, but at that point, to be organizing your own website management or scheduling your blogs or sending out your email newsletters. You'll dictate them or write them, but someone else needs to get them scheduled for you. So it's that sort of thing. It's very much greasing the wheels of a small business or a solopreneur business. So that's what it is. I've mentioned very few services there. It can be so much more. It can be call handling. It can be HR type stuff. It can even be legal based. I have a lot of virtual assistants in the membership that will help health professionals, and that's a totally different kettle of fish. So it's not helpful to sort of say it is really broad, but it is helpful to say it's your business admin assistant helping with what you need. So how do I help people do that? Well, a lot of it is confidence. So I'm actually a qualified coach and mentor. I'm EMCC accredited, which is not overly common for coaches. I think a lot of people just are coaches. So that was really important to me. And I think it is the autistic side that if I was going to help people, I was damn sure going to make sure I was qualified to help people with more than just lived experience. I needed both. I needed to tick both boxes. So I've got lived experience as a business manager. And then I've got the tick box. I know how I can ethically and appropriately coach and mentor someone. So within the membership, I offer the coaching and mentoring, which could be anything from when they're too scared, they haven't got the confidence or the mindset or scaffolding to charge more than £20 an hour. And I'm going, babe, no, 27, 30, 35. We do the mindset work, and it's not just me shouting numbers at them. It is proper, deep, psychological mindset work at an appropriate level. So it could be that, or it could be as simple as, I don't know where to put my website. Where should I put my website? I'm sick of researching. I'm sick of asking ChatGPT. I'm sick of Googling. Just tell me and I will tell them. Wix is always the answer for anyone listening.
Cool.
Um, I'm very biased. So it can very much range from deep mindset work, dealing with imposter syndrome. It can range from how do I do it? Here's how you do it. And then there's all the bits in between, which is the practicalities of actually how do I set up as a solopreneur? What do I need to do to start a business? And we go through things like I've got a great starter course where we go through all the things like logo and fonts and do I need a website or not? And what services will I offer? So literally that for anyone starting a business, almost that checklist of everything they need to hit, from the legals to the contracts, to the more fun stuff, to where am I going to get visible? Because a lot of people hate social media, and that's okay. Like it really is okay. Then outside of the getting started, I work with a lot of VAs who are already established, but maybe don't love their clients. They need some support. Who do I actually want to work with? How do I get the confidence to sack a couple to go out looking for the dream clients? Some of them want to grow to start working with a team. As I've built an agency, quite a few want to do that as well. Some of them are managing maternity leaves or planning for a family. So we sort of just deal with all of those challenges that come up for women in this entrepreneur world. And not only do I support them through it, but the star of the membership is the community. It's the other women, because they do not need me to be supporting each other. And they're so supportive. They are so supportive. They run co-working sessions. They do little meetups. A lot of them will work with each other as colleagues. And you may have found this in the podcasting community or as you move into your own entrepreneurship journey, which I can 100% see happening. It's lonely. We work from home. We're doing this alone. A lot of us only speak to children the rest of the day. It's really bloody lonely. So having that virtual water cooler, that virtual kitchen, that environment of, I just cannot get started today, guys. Can someone motivate me? Or can someone just jump on and co-work with me for half an hour or whatever? Like that's just transformational. And that is what, as adult women, so many of us lack in all facets of our life, let alone when we leave traditional employment. So that, in a rather large nutshell, is how I support women to become virtual assistants and then grow their businesses into something really profitable and sustainable.
I might have to sign myself up. Sounds amazing.
Emma, you would be very welcome because, well, that's the other thing. I say for virtual assistants, it's called the VA Village because village community love it. I get to pretend I'm the mayor for S. I don't. I really don't, but I do like Village. But so many of them come in and they go, actually, you know what? I'm a sales consultant. I'm actually a design genius. And they evolve out of the virtual assistant role, but because it's where we all started, I'm not a virtual assistant anymore. I'm a strategist. Because it's where we all started. It's our home. It's our base. So you might well be, you know what? The virtual assistant world fits for now. And eventually I'm going to become this neurospicy expert podcaster / public speaker. But you'd
What I
still fit
want
right
to
into
do,
that.
yeah, basically, yeah. That's. I just want to get paid to talk about ADHD. It's as simple as that. It's not, And obviously, my psychology studies that I'm doing give me obviously a bit more of about academia because you're very academic yourself and you because of your family and your childhood. So yeah, I see the value in a good education. Although I didn't get it when I was a child, I hated school. I just hated everything. I think hate school, hated being at home. Just yeah, but now I see the value in kind of a decent education and higher education as well. And it's never been that I wasn't capable. It was just that I would always kind of start struggling and be quiet and wouldn't ask for help. And then obviously just quietly dropped out and was always, and then next week it'd be right, I'm going to do this instead, or I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. No, like I struggle with that continuity and but what I've done this time, even though I study 100% online, is I actually reach out for help. I've created, my own reasonable adjustments. I know, like when I first started studying in 2023, um, that I was asked, like, what do you need? What are the things that you struggle with? And I'm like, I actually don't know what I need. How can anyone, unless you've done a degree online, how can you know what you need? And then I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I'm not assessed with it. I'm guaranteed I'm massively dyslexic. So I've got ADHD, I've got complex PTSD, I've got fibromyalgia. And what I've done throughout the journey is whenever I got to the point where I wanted to drop out, I reached out for help instead. And thankfully, I study at a university that is amazing at supporting students like me. And that's just grown my confidence even more than the actual studies do, because it's given me, because I could advocate for literally every other single person in the world. But when it used to come to me, I could never do that. But what my degree has done for me in the last 2.5 years has given me the confidence to advocate for myself to start with, and now I advocate for disabled or neurodivergent students. And I'm sure there's certain teams within my university that want to put their head on the desk because I don't shut up and go away until something's resolved. And that's just the thing that I am the best at. That kind of dedication to kind of, to make sure that people get what they deserve to thrive in these virtual kind of environments and stuff. So yeah, there's lots of things that I am good at, and strategic stuff as well. I've realised recently is I'm quite good at that, and I just like talking. I just want to get paid to talk. That's what my goal is. I want to get paid to
They
talk about ADHD. It's simple as that.
never suggest this as a job, do they? In secondary school, it's like, come on, paid to talk. That is a thing. I think something you've just said as well, it really hits the nail on the head. Like, you didn't want to do it at school. Like, you couldn't do it at school. And now you do. So what's changed other than the maturity of the brain, which is really important? We're forcing kids into these horrible constrained boxes, really awful environments, really restricted environments. I'll tell you a story in a minute. Really restricted environments at a time when their brains are really immature. Socially, they are more awkward than they will ever be. They are more self-conscious than they will ever be. And yet we're forcing them to be around peers. Whereas firstly, you've chosen it, which obviously does make a massive difference. But already, you said it's virtual learning, it's online, right? So your spoons, the spoon analogy for ADHD is? So
Theory, yeah.
So for those of you who don't know it, they're basically like our measurements of energy. And we all start with the same spoons in the day, but a neurotypical person might use one spoon to get dressed and brush their teeth, but a neurospicy person might use 5. So we use our spoons a heck of a lot quicker. So online learning, our kids, to get to school, they're using all their spoons to get up, get dressed, brush teeth, get to the bus stop, go on the bus, deal with their friends on the bus, get to school, find their classroom, deal with their friends in the classroom, take register before they've even tried to learn a damn thing. How many spoons is that taking up? Whereas in theory, you have to, all of the spoons, exactly. In theory, you have to get up and sit at your laptop. You don't have to brush your teeth. You probably have to put a top on, but
Well, yeah,
we all know what did for everyone's wardrobes. We only ever had tops. So you're already ahead of the game compared to a young person who's got to get to school or university, and that is as it should be. Again, there's that's not to say that online learning is going to be the perfect solution for 11 to 18-year-olds. I'm not saying that, but where's the acknowledgement of how much we are taking from them before we ask them to learn anything, let alone putting them in a noisy, crowded, smelly environment of 29 other people? With the demands on them, with what they have to remember, with jostling through the corridors. And then we ask them to do that 6 times a day. 6 times a day. And we wonder why detentions shoot up after lunch. Like, literally, I'm sorry, but after lunch should be nothing but PE and art and drama. So, sorry, I've got a massive soapbox about this. And obviously those listening can tell that children, I've got the youngest one is going up to high school. My eldest is already in high school. So I'm very much in the trenches of this. And I will say we are very lucky with the places my children are at. But I support a lot of friends going through this either personally or with their children, because firstly, you cannot shut me up, as you may have realized. But also I'm like, I've fought several systems to get what I need, to get what my daughter needs. I'm damned if I'm going to let that time and knowledge go to waste. I'm going to help every other person that doesn't have this I'm so lucky. Because I run my own business, I don't have a lot of time, but I have flexibility of time. And I've got a quick brain. I'm really, really lucky. I can process a lot of stuff. I can hold a lot of information. I'm good at researching. I've also got a great network to pass tasks on to if I need to. Other people don't have that. So if I can help and I can go, you know what, do this, or let me tell you about access to work, or actually your school should have offered you this. What the hell? I will do that. So I help a lot. So I get a lot of stories about what kids are going through. Kids who are on the diagnosis pathway, so not just suspected, they're just waiting for their appointments, are getting punished because they don't take their coat off as soon as they get into school because it's still raining and they're like, I want to take my coat off over there. Kids are getting punished and put in detention because they're called a racial slur and then they respond back. It's insane. Kids are getting punished because they're meant to take out their book and read at the start of a lesson. They're taking out the book, but they're not reading it. They're not being disruptive. They're just not reading the book. And these kids are getting punished. And as you know, and what your listeners probably are aware of, what does punishment lead to? Shame. What does a shame spiral lead to? Oh, escalation. And
Right.
I see this all the time. And I have to constantly I have to almost apologize and go, look, if something is done to my child, they're going to do worse back. We need to stop the thing being done in the first place. She has no regulation. She has impulsivity. She's 3 years emotionally younger. We can't just keep punishing because I'm telling you what's going to happen. And I sort of sit there and I'm going, would you actually punish a child in a wheelchair for not being able to stand up and move through the corridor? Of course you wouldn't. So why are you punishing my child with no sense of time, or this other child with no sense of time management, no sense of, he will be impulsive, he will chat. Why are you punishing him because he can't move through the corridors? And it baffles me. Now, again, caveat, we're really lucky with my school. These are stories that I have been told, that I have shared, that I know to be true. And it is never the individual. It's rarely the individual teacher. It's the system. But why is the system so bad? Because you, as an adult student, are thriving. You're getting amazing grades because you're being scaffolded by a system. Why are we waiting till people are 40 and 50 to scaffold them?
I think as well.
And I
Yeah, go on. Sorry, I'm interrupted then, so keep going.
no, it's fine.
I love
We're
it. You're
getting
so
passionate.
passionate about it. I'm just like, these are the kind of conversations that I actually really enjoy having. So please, yeah, continue. Carry on. Sorry, I
It's
interrupted.
proper soapbox, right? And it's one of the things I'd love to change. I'd love to change how neurodiversity is treated in schools, not just for the neurodivergent kids. Are you telling me that every single child wouldn't benefit from a fidget band around the base of the chair? Firstly, the neurodivergent kids say no to them because it makes them stand out, so it would help them. But also, all kids need to be allowed to fidget. Let them bloody fidget. Are you telling me that all kids wouldn't benefit from a 5-minute movement break at the end of each lesson? Put a damn song on and dance. Normalize it. And once you've done it for 2 years in every single school, it'll be less embarrassing. Why aren't we taking a neurodivergent approach? Because I guarantee it will help all children. Why aren't we doing affirmations? Like, don't get me wrong, PSCHE has come on loads. They are doing a lot about good friendships and trust, but it's not gone far enough, fast enough for my mind. The bloody English grammar curriculum was destroyed several years ago. It's now enormous and stupid and not fit for purpose. Sorry, I'm really soapboxing now. Why aren't we stripping out? Because they don't need to know what a fronted adverbial is and teaching them affirmations instead. Do you know what I mean? Like, please, God, let me get my hands on the curriculum. But this is my thinking.
What was that you just said? A fronted what?
A fronted adverbial. And don't ask me what it is because I don't bloody know. We've just come through SATs and I still don't.
Okay, but then I was just like, I don't, yeah. And
I've got an English degree. And no, literally every primary school year 6 teacher I speak to is like, no, I have to relearn the grammar curriculum every year. And I'm going, no bloody wonder. And then they don't use most of it at high school. It's ridiculous. But I do get off topic, as usual.
Please go ahead.
I just feel as though the potential for success is clearly there. It's clearly possible. Why are we waiting for people to be at the midpoint of their life when we could do it? We could and should do it at the high school point, at the primary school point. And if we took a neuro-spicy approach to it, every single person would benefit.
Funnily enough, I've said this within my university a few times recently. Like if we build systems from the foundations before anything's implemented that are suitable for ADHD students, staff, or even just neurodivergent as a whole, if we build the systems from the very foundations, they're going to be good systems to follow for everyone. They're not just going to be suitable for neurodivergent students and stuff. They're going to be suitable for everyone. It's like, but yeah, it's like trying to get that kind of message across, like you just said. Unfortunately, I think it's more so with um, school age children like you've got at the moment. Like there's a one size fits all, and obviously we don't all fit that size. It's still like that in higher education, but it's like having to even just fight. I mean, I don't mean physically fight, but I mean keep continuing saying the same things over and over and over again. Like I don't learn in a traditional way. So that means that's not just because I've got ADHD, it's because I'm studying online. It's because, there's lots of contributing factors. My pain plays into it as well. And I think, we're kind of almost pigeonholed into a one size fits all education. And it doesn't fit even neurotypical people. It doesn't necessarily fit everybody. And so, yeah, so I do advocate a lot for change within my university and within higher education, because I think, and more so, I think we should be doing this for younger children, because they don't have the ability to be able to regulate their emotions, or they don't even know why they all of a sudden feel angry or ashamed or whatever. But if we could just kind of, my brain has just forgotten what I was going to say. It's just had a brain fart again for the second time. But I often think it's been challenging for me. How does that feel for a younger child that's not necessarily able to articulate these things and tell people, like, maybe you don't have parents or a school that understands, but even if you're waiting to be diagnosed, to be on the waiting list means that you probably have got, you wouldn't be assessed if there wasn't grounds for that assessment and for you to go on that waiting list. And it's like, how do we, school the children, the bullying, the name calling, everything that I experienced, my daughter experienced, and she's very academic. She's a lot more academic than I thought I was. I didn't know I was academic, but actually I am. And I didn't know that until I started my degree. In fact, I thought they were going to look at my application and laugh and say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. But thankfully they didn't. But I think one of the biggest changes for me is studying something that I'm actually really interested in. And I know ADHD is an interest-based nervous system. So this isn't necessarily possible for, junior school, senior school. It's not necessarily, but for me, it's been being able to learn in a way that's suitable to me without feeling ashamed of how I do that. But also studying something that actually captures, like psychology is, I mean, vast. It literally, like, at times it's been a little bit overwhelming because there's so many different kind of critical aspects that you can use to argue a point in an essay or whatever you're writing. So sometimes it's been a bit overwhelming, but I think just by me actually studying something that really, really interests me, not all of it interests me, different modules, I wanted to pull my own eyes out and cry because, quantitative research methods, numbers, I'm just like, drop me out. I literally cried. I cried several times for both modules. I did it for my second module, Introduction to Research Methods, and then I did it the first module of level 5, and literally cried about 5 times because it still didn't make any. It still doesn't make any sense. But the amazing thing is that it doesn't have to make sense. I just have to be able to learn how to do it. And I think one of the biggest issues that I've come across is because of the way that my brain is, because of the way that I learn, I need to do something repetitively over and over and over again, and then it just becomes second nature. But I need to be able to have the freedom to be able to do that, whatever it is, repetitively over and over and over again. And the problem is with degrees, you're not always going to be like you're not going to use quantitative research methods in psychology every single time you write an essay or every single time you write anything. And that's where the problem is where I haven't been able to kind of learn it and fully understand it. But I'm definitely more of a qualitative researcher. I prefer words, spoken words, than numbers. So, but I think the problem with younger children is they're not given the freedom to be able to learn in a way that's suitable to them, but also to learn things that actually interest them, or even just can be put like a bit of a novelty spin on it, as in, like, I don't like quantitative research methods, but if I sat with someone and talked through it, which is what I've been actually very grateful to be able to do. I've had a lot of support when it comes to numbers with my university, with my module tutors and the support system. I've been able to get a lot of help, but I think like, if you could kind of almost gamify it for younger children and find the one thing that they are interested in that kind of gets the dopamine to release in their brain and makes things easier, or makes things manageable. And I have no idea how we would implement this, but I would be fully supportive of anyone that wanted to kind of get on this little bandwagon, because I love a bit of a soapbox about things. And it's all just about trying to kind of, it's like that self-acceptance, that, the confidence. Like, I'd never had any confidence really in my abilities until I got diagnosed and then started my degree. I didn't know that. My friends for years were, "Are you so intelligent?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." Like, no, because I'm blonde, but this is out of a bottle. It's not natural. And I've always been. I'm really scatty. I'm really chaotic. Like, everything's a million miles an hour, or like nothing is organised. But they're like, "But you're really intelligent," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." Like, and I know that comes from my childhood, being told I was thick. I also know it comes from school, and different jobs, because I don't do things in the way that everyone else would. Um, but yeah, I just think self-confidence, self-esteem, self-acceptance is an
It's fun.
area for
Have you,
younger children we should
are
be
you
focusing on, which, yeah.
completely? Have you heard that amazing quote, which I'm probably going to completely butcher now, which is, "You wouldn't judge a fish on how well it rides a bicycle"? Like, are
I
you
love that.
familiar with that one?
No, no, no,
It's
no.
one of
I love that.
my favorite. Forgive me, as I don't know who to credit it to. I've seen it just a billion times. I'm so drawn to it, which is, yes, why essentially are we judging people for doing something that they weren't made to do? We were made to We were put on this earth to what? To be barefoot, to breathe, to look at the stars, to dream, to make music. Some of us were all put on this earth to do different things. So yes, schools should be helping us to find those things. And yeah, it's hard. Like, it's very easy for me to sit here and jump on my soapbox, but obviously I don't know the rigors of planning a curriculum to send children out into the world. And I'm not coming at this from an educated point of view. I'm coming at it from the lived experience. You are obviously coming at it from, you are being educated in some of the topic. Maybe we need an educational psychologist now to come on and just be like, actually, and then a curriculum builder, and then go, maybe this is what we're here to do. I don't know. You've said that you're here to change the world. I suspect I am as well, a little bit. I don't quite know what that'll look like, but it's going to happen. But what we should be judging ourselves and each other on is what we are built to do, not what someone else tells us to do. So no riding bicycles if we're fish.
I wouldn't even want to get on a bicycle. I trip over the flat surface. So I'm the most clumsiest person ever. Like, literally will trip over a flat surface. Don't even know how I do it, but that does make sense. I like that. Um, yeah, a fish and a motor and a bicycle. Yeah. Hmm. One of the previous guests that I had a few months ago, he said that Um, after he was diagnosed, he said to his boss, at the time, "Don't judge how I do something, just judge the outcome that I produce." And I love that, because my way of doing anything is just messy, chaotic, like everything's all over the place. And I can tell when I've worked on different projects. So I do a lot of voluntary work outside of my studies within my university. So I'm an ambassador for the Neurodiversity Network. I sit on the student inclusion panel and the student representative, and lots and lots more, and I've created a lot of facilitated a lot of events and stuff. And I always say to people now, don't like, and it's only if someone else has got ADHD that they kind of can cope with my chaos, and bits are here, there, and everywhere. And actually, I've built such strong relationships with staff and students that we kind of all just work together really well. And I openly will say, don't writing anything down is just a no-no for me, because I can't. And now I know that I'm probably definitely dyslexic. It's not just about the ADHD and the busy mind and all that jazz, but it's like, and then what I really enjoyed is that we all kind of play to our strengths, so we all do the things, and it's like, people say to me like, it's only because of you, because I think I am very open with anybody and everybody. I do not mask anymore because I can't be bothered. It's exhausting. So I'm turning up as me, and I'm going to tangent. I'm not going to apologize for being how I am unless I'm rude, which is rare for me. But I am also very respectfully honest. I'm very blunt. So sometimes I have to kind of try and soften how I would say something, because I say it as I see it, like exactly. And unfortunately, not everyone can take that high level of direct bluntness. So I have to be careful with that. But I just think if you can find friends or find people to kind of be supported by or work with, and you all just kind of play to your strengths, surely this is just it. And it like some of the staff say to me like, well, I don't know why this has ever been thought of before, and I'm like, I'm just a student. I call myself only a student, which I've been told off several times for recently, because I'm not only a student. Or I say to guests, because I'm not, you know, qualified in a lot, I'd say, yeah, but I'm just little old me. And then my partner tells me off for saying I'm just little old me, because actually I've got more to offer by being myself. And, but yeah, that was a bit of a big tangent.
It's fine. I think we're allowed. I think they're probably expected. But yeah, none of us are just anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Be proud of taking our place in the world. And that's the thing. I'm going to move on from the word just. And this is a conversation I have with a friend and colleague all the time. We have all been told our whole lives too loud, too much, too disorganized, too late, too arrogant, too rude, too blunt, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm not too anything. Like, you're the problem if you can't handle it. And that's so hard to, that's a really difficult mindset shift, because often we're fighting decades, aren't we? And we're fighting people, a lot of us are people we love, like, for those of us that didn't have narcissistic parents, they still got it wrong because they didn't know. Of course, I'm still getting it wrong. Like, I'm doing my best. I can guarantee I'm still getting it wrong. We are all going to pass on some sort of trauma despite our best efforts. So sometimes we've been told we're too whatever from teachers we respect, friends we care about, parents we love and adore. So how the hell do we get rid of that? It's a really difficult piece of work to do, but we have to do it. And then we have to take it a step further to say, not only am I not too anything, I'm just right. There you go. You can have just for that. I am just right. I deserve my place in the world. And that's a difficult thing to do, but you deserve your place and I deserve mine.
Yeah, it is. And, I kind of go between feeling a little bit embarrassed sometimes when I get praised, or a lot embarrassed, or, cringy, to then sometimes I'll just be like, no, I've done this, and this. This is how I've done it, and this is the outcome. And it's like there's no kind of middle ground for me. I'm either I can't cope with praise and it makes me cringe, or I'm like, no, I'm gonna be proud of this. This is, I've done this, and this. I've got 78%. I've got whatever, when I didn't even think I'd get 40% for a grade in any modules. Like, I'm still as surprised as well. I don't think anyone else is surprised, but I am surprised every time I get a good grade. Yeah, my grades are not always over 70%. You can tell that there's some modules that I've studied that I just didn't like. It's weird, or I didn't enjoy. But yeah, it's just like, there's kind of no middle ground. Like I'm either kind of cringy and be like, oh yeah, I've got 72% this time or whatever, or I'm like, no, this is what I've done. I'm super proud of this. This is what I've achieved. This is how I've done it. And so, yeah, it's just a bit of a bit of a big contradiction.
I do wonder if that's cycle related and hormone related, because I can't remember which one, but one of the hormones is a confidence hormone, probably testosterone or progesterone or something. And I do wonder if that has an impact on how you're willing to show up for yourself. Um, and then the embarrassment, that's just, none of us like being perceived, do we?
No,
Don't look at me.
no. It's weird though, because I get frustrated if, like, because I do a lot outside my studies. I do, and I don't shut up and go away until something is resolved, and I will keep going. Like, literally, will not shut up and go away because I'm refusing to, because I've been frightened or silenced so many times in the past. I'm not doing it anymore. Um, and then when I get a little bit of recognition, then I start cringing, and it's only the students and staff that know me really well will understand why. Like, I think if a student has done a really good job with something, then they should be given that recognition. And it is frustrating when we're not, but then you get the recognition and you're like, oh my God, like, I just want to crawl under the desk and die from kind of cringing. But once that feeling's passed, and I know for me that comes from my childhood, because I never got any positive kind of conditioning, reinforcement. There was never any pride. There was never anyone until my mum married my stepdad. Never anyone ever said to me, I'm proud of you. I was just always the problem. And I know that that stems from that, but it's like, because I'm still surprised about how capable I am in academia, and I don't fit the mold. I don't. I'm just not like, I'm not. I'm not your typical academic. I'm just, I'm just not. And I've made peace with that, and I don't care anymore. But I am capable, and it's still that surprise every time I get sent a grade when I've submitted. It's like, oh, yeah. And then I'll sit there, and it'll take me maybe a day or two to kind of, and then all of a sudden I'll start laughing, and my partner's like, yeah, you got 72%. Yeah, you got 78%. Yeah, you did it again. And I'm like, it just takes me a minute to kind of process that, or a minute or few. And it's like, yeah, so I try and be proud of my achievements, but I do still find it really, really challenging sometimes. So yeah.
Well, it is, because we've been taught that it's too much or arrogant or whatever. And you've learned about operant conditioning, so you could, in theory, use yourself as a bit of a test subject, and there's nothing stopping you from going, you know what, right, I'm going to recondition myself. And even though you've got, I don't know when you first started working on yourself, but maybe, I don't know, 35, 40 years of conditioning to break free from, it's never too late to start, right? So
Oh.
maybe that's a project for you, to start conditioning yourself into not only believing in advance that these things will happen, but that they are your right, that they're inevitable. Your success is inevitable.
And I think I've started realizing that just a little smidgen recently. And yeah, but it is like, yeah, I just, I
This is
am on that
uh,
journey, but it's, sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 10 back, and it depends on what it is, and, what's going on for me in the moment. Sometimes I'm just great, and I'm like, yeah, do you know what? I won an award last week for Mental Health Champion in the All-for-Inclusion Awards. Um, I didn't think I was going to win, but I've been nominated for a She Inspires Award, and I made it to the final, and I went, and I didn't win, but I was still nominated for 4 of their categories. And last week, I actually won the mental, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and I just automatically went into that kind of, well, I'm not going to win. So, because I attended the ceremony online, because it's in Manchester, I'm in Essex, and it's just too far financially, but also physically too far for me to travel. And I was like, it doesn't matter, I'm not going to win anyway. So, and then I did, and I was like, and it's like, other people that were winners before me were giving a speech, and I had no makeup on. I literally was like in bed because it was at night, like in the evening, completely and utterly taken off guard because I was just like, I didn't know what to say or do. So I have no idea what I said in that speech, but it's like, if I wasn't doing something right, then I wouldn't obviously be awarded these things, would I? So, yeah, I'm just a bit weird like that. Yeah.
No, right. So this is where I kind of want to put my coaching hat on and pick at bits of that,
Go on then.
because you're not, it is very normal. It is extremely normal because we're all keeping ourselves safe. Now, this is going to be me going to suck eggs, because you will have learned all of this in your course. You'll know all of this already, but we know that our brains are still wired from the caveman days. And we play it small. Let trauma aside, whatever we've been conditioned aside. You know, nature has our brains keeping us safe and not doing new things and not trying new things and not believing in ourselves in case that makes us try new things. So your brain is literally telling you can't win, you're not going to win, to protect you from the pain and loss and fear. And that's what keeps so many women as well, and I'll talk about that in a sec, so many people from starting businesses, because our brains go, but what if you fail? And then it's, but what if you succeed? And I'm like, we've got to remember that other what if. So our brains are conditioned to do that anyway. Trauma and lack of self-belief that has been taught is just a massive, massive, massive layer on top. But, if you were one of my, I was about to say one of my girls, how ridiculous is that? If you were one of my ladies, which sounds like something else entirely, like I'm sort of brothel madam. But if you were in my world, which you kind of are now, I would be saying to you, I really want to see you put in some just very basic entry level mindset work. I want you to create, I call it a positivity part, but I've got people that call it different things. They use post-its, they create a wall of just amazing things they've done, like amazing moments. And then I'm like, right, because we're all in this roller coaster, you got to capture the peaks. So when you're at the troughs, you can remind yourself of them, because that woman that can't get out of bed today is still that woman that won that award and was nominated for that award and helped that person and had that other person say, thank you, you've changed my life, and got 78%. So we have to capture all of those things to be our own scaffolding. And then this is the really big thing, and this is what no one does because it's so uncomfortable. When we're in these moments, like when we're getting the 78% and the awards, we can't just think the good thing. Writing it down is great, but the best thing is to say it out loud, because as you will know, our brain processes different information differently. So thinking it never actually processes it fully because it changes a little bit each time. Writing it down is pretty good. Saying it is different again. And I always recommend people do both, because we all have our different preferences as to processing information. Having someone say it to you is different again. So I recommend doing all three. And if you can bring yourself to do the really horrible thing, which is record yourself saying it and watch it back. Horrible, cringeworthy, but that's really powerful. And it just helps to retrain all those little neurons in our brain, our neurons that are firing to failure and to, that's not me, or how did I do that, or it's not going to happen. Each time we're retraining the brain to go, I am more than capable of getting 70% every time. I deserve this grade. I am absolutely fucking fantastic at helping neurospicy people. And we say it until our brain believes it, and it might take years, but saying it is a lot faster, a lot more impactful than thinking it. Writing it down is great as well. So that would, if I were your coach, that would be one of the things I say to you. Create this positivity part, this diary of amazing occurrences, call it whatever you want. One of my women said, I think we called it magical memories, because her name starts with magical moments, because her name starts with an M. And she's made a book to capture them. And if we can capture them and try and just retrain our brain little by little, we're not just helping ourselves, we're helping everyone else we're going to eventually help. So that makes it maybe a bit easier.
Okay, let's try then. I'm going to just try it now. Say it out loud to you. Oh.
Shake it off. Shake off the discomfort. Crack the neck. And tell me how fucking amazing you are, Emma.
I am fucking amazing. I am
sorry.
fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. Okay. I achieve all of these things, and I get really, really good grades in my degree, and I should be proud of that. Even yeah, I'm just going to say a negative thing then, so I'm not going to say. And yeah, I've been nominated for awards and I've won the awards, and yeah, I'm fucking amazingly talented, and yeah.
Yeah. Let's go a bit
Ah!
further. And you're smart and you're a high achiever and you are going to change the world for other people just like you.
Love to change the world for other people like me, definitely, just by talking or supporting them.
Manifest it, manifest it. You are going to. You
I
already
am.
are. You've got this amazing platform.
I'm going to change people's worlds. There you go. I'm manifesting that as well. But
You
yeah,
are.
I'd like to just get reach people who think like about themselves like I used to. But now I obviously try and think about myself in a more positive way. Although I don't always say it out loud. But yeah, I need to maybe be a bit more open with I don't know, I'm going all funny now. So I'm like, oh my God, you just said on the podcast that I'm fucking amazing and that's so
Can't take it back now. Own it. So there you go. There is my challenge to you. And actually, anyone listening, you'll recognize if this applies to you. You'll recognize if you talk yourself down, if you minimize achievements. So I recognize you to really listen to your thoughts. And every time one of those negative creeps in, or you moderate it, or you shrink a little bit in your head, that you capture that thought, you say, no, thank you, don't need that. And you replace it with something positive, strongly positive, not a should, not a want to, but am. I am fucking amazing. I get amazing grades. I am academic. I am changing the world. I am going to change the world even more. I am. Please, I invite everyone listening to come up with a strong I am statement about themselves now. And you say it till you believe it. And
I
then you
am. Okay.
think of a new.
I am already helping other people. I'm already achieving amazing fucking things. I want to continue to do that and help as many women as I can. So yeah, I am going to change the world of others, even if that's just through this podcast. No, that's the negative, you see. My God.
It's minimizing, isn't it? Starting with this podcast, I am already changing the world and I know it's going to grow.
Yes. Okay. I need to go away and practice this a bit more, I think, because yeah.
It definitely takes practice. But you know what? You caught it. You caught you caught the shrinking. And it's such, when I describe it, it sounds like such a basic technique, but it's surprisingly difficult to do when we've conditioned and had a lifetime of doing the opposite, of shrinking to take up a smaller space, to be quieter. No, goddess era, right? 40 plus. And I will include the 30s and the 20s in this because we don't age discriminate. Whatever age you are, enter the goddess era. Don't be afraid to take up space, to say proudly, I am. Focus on the amazing, because every single one, every single person has amazing. We've been taught to, and British as well doesn't help. We are taught to cut down our tall poppies. No, no more. Be proud. Be proud to be here, to take up space, to acknowledge how amazing you are, the amazing things you do. And by doing so, you will help more people. So really, it's very, very, very unselfish.
Well, that's good because I've been told I'm selfish all of my life by a certain parent of mine. So yeah, it's very unselfish. I think that's one of the reasons why I like helping other people because it kind of is like it's the dopamine release in my brain. It's not just when I talk about ADHD that the dopamine's released, it's when I help other people. And if all I've not that I only ever have the offer, I only ever offer just helping other people or talking. But if by just doing this podcast I reach more women, I help more women to kind of start reframing their experiences, like in the present and going forward, then that's pretty much this is the reason why I set up the podcast. And it's because I want to reach and just show authenticity of what it's like to be neurodivergent, have ADHD, be a late diagnosed woman, and always kind of put a strength based kind of spin on it. But then not plaster over the challenges. So it is a bit of a fine line, I think, when it comes to kind of strength based approaching or, being proud of yourself. And it is a work in progress for me, but I just think I love, like, helping other people has always been like, it's always been my purpose. It was always the thing that got me up out of bed when I was still working, um, before I got diagnosed with a fibro and became less physically able, which is still frustrating sometimes, but it is what it is. So yeah, the fact that I'm getting to help others, and it's not just women, it's like other people, it's like, young people, if they find the podcast and they can kind of, learn something from what we've talked about today, or learn something from what any of the guests or anything that I've said, is if that's why I wanted to do, apart from the fact that I love talking about ADHD and I talk about it all the time, and I think I drive people around me mad a lot of the time. But you know what? It's not that I don't care if I'm driving someone mad. It's just because I enjoy talking so much. So why not try their money? I'm taking that bit out because obviously I'd like to monetize the podcast. I'd like to set up the ADHD Reframe project as an actual business. No clue how to do it because it's not something I've ever done before. I want to get and
Maybe,
do some
maybe this
public.
is why we're now in each other's worlds, Emma. Who knows? I do believe I have a saying from a client's client who's amazing spiritual woman, but it's one woo, not two. So not totally woo woo. And it is very much like the universe will give you what you're meant to have when you're ready for it. And it's going to happen for you. And you are already helping people. I think this is so common for us as well, especially women with ADHD. We're raised as people pleasers. Which isn't a bad thing as long as we can be people pleasers with boundaries, people pleasers that only pour from a full cup. You'll have observed I friggin' love a metaphor, and I like to mix them far too often. But as long as we always have enough to meet our needs, to meet our dearest one's needs, and then we go, right, what have I got for the rest of the world? We can live a life of what is essentially service, of helping people. And we should damn well bloody get dopamine from that. And that, again, that doesn't mean that we are arrogant or any other version of that word. It means that, no, what I do best is helping people. And hell yes, it gives me joy, because why would I do something that doesn't? And I'm very much the same as you. If I can help someone fight a system, fill in a form. I helped someone win a PIP appeal the other day. I'd never done that before. And I was just like, feeling good about myself. New skill unlocked. Because we're making someone else's life better. And why wouldn't that make us feel amazing? So everything you've just said, I 100% agree with. Can guarantee this podcast is already, it's a baby podcast, isn't it? You're saying it was January of this year. This podcast is already giving new ideas to people. It's normalizing what ADHD is, because hello, it is normal. It's giving them connections, people to talk to. Hopefully you get loads of emails. Hopefully I get a couple of emails just from people who have been touched or think, oh my God, there is something out there for me. I can go back to education. I can start a business. I'm not alone fighting for my child. I thought I was alone. Like, even if it just makes one person feel less alone, you have done your job. And I guarantee it has done and will do far more than that. And I've got lots of ideas that we should talk about after the call as
Okay,
well.
this is
After
amazing.
the
I
record.
like ideas. So yeah, because I obviously have, like, the podcast. I'm on season 2. There's like 30 episodes in season 1, and this is season 2, episode 6. I've got all of that content sitting there, and I'm just going to say this out loud. No patience to sit and kind of pick bits out of the recordings, or I physically, mentally and emotionally, I've tried and I can't do it. And then the marketing and the social media and stuff, it's like, people say, oh, they'll contact me and they'll be like, oh yeah, you could change your algorithm if you pay me this much, or if you do this, if you do that. I'm just about managing to kind of record and do a minimum amount of editing before I publish, which is what you do with the podcast, you publish it. And then I'm just like, I'm sorry, but I don't have any money to pay you to help me. And I've tried to do it myself. And I just really would love to pay someone just to do the social media side of things, because it just takes me so long. And I'm just like, yeah, so I could do the virtual assistant myself. But it's paying for that, isn't it? So, but yeah,
It
there's
is
lots
always
of things that I want to do that I don't have. It's not that I can't do them. It's just that I don't know how to do them. and I don't have the patience to do them, basically.
And that is the challenge of so many solopreneurs. And it goes back to the zone of genius. You need to be recording the podcast, handpicking your guests, having the conversations, directing the future of it, and then some other things I want to tell you about that you should be
Yeah.
doing. Terrible word. And it's the same for all solopreneurs. Very quickly, you realize you don't want to wear all the hats. You shouldn't be doing your invoicing, your scheduling, your chopping up, your editing, or, all of this. Like, you do need the support. So literally everyone can and should have a virtual assistant. What I will say is it's not quite as expensive as one might think. Now, obviously,
Okay.
when there's no income, different. But virtual assistants, you can be working with a virtual assistant from £300 a month. You'll get 10 hours support for that. And it sounds like a lot, but when people are able to then, in those 10 hours, charge £100 an hour, very quickly makes the money back. And there's the stress relief as well. Plus, you're not worrying about employment and stuff. So that's just my little plug for virtual assistants that I think everyone can benefit. Something else I should add, though, for neurospicy entrepreneurs with a diagnosis, and you may be aware of this, Emma, there is something called Access to Work, which is a government program. It helps people who are employed, self-employed, students. It is hard to get, as you might imagine. Waiting lists are insanely long, but it helps you get the support you need in the setting you need. And that can pay for things like virtual assistants. I've got quite a few Access to Work clients. We do things like we do body doubling, we do just, 10-minute check-ins, we do task lists for them. We're not necessarily doing the jobs for them, but we're keeping them on track, helping them to prioritize. They've all got time blindness. So we're going, no, that is not a 5-minute job. That's actually a half-hour job. And then you need a break afterwards. So if this resonates again, look up Access to Work, or feel free to reach out to me and I will, point you in the direction, because literally waiting lists are 12 to 18 months. So apply now and you might get support down the line. And there's loads of people who can help. So that is a resource that not everyone knows about. It was used and abused for a few years, hence why it's so hard to get now, but it still exists and it is there for those who are most in need. And just, having a couple of hours body doubling and strategizing a week, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's transformational. It just it takes some of the spoons that you would otherwise be using. So for anyone listening who feels that might be a benefit, I do encourage you to have a Google of that as well.
I didn't think I would be entitled to it at the moment because I'm not actually physically working or earning any money. So that's why I've never considered it. But yeah, obviously that's always been in my mind for when I've graduated and I set up the business, legally set up the business. But yeah, it's good to know that that is available. And yeah, I do a lot of body doubling with other students because when I have to do the academic writing, it's the only thing that gets me going and keeps me going. So yeah, I talk a lot about body doubling. I do a lot of body doubling as well. So yeah, it's if listeners are just hearing about it for the first time, it's basically just a virtual Zoom or Teams meeting space where you can have your camera on and off, on or off, whatever you're comfortable with. Everyone's muted, and then you just work alongside. And yeah, it's weird for people with ADHD or neurodivergent people that keep kind of you having that accountability and the physical presence of seeing someone on the camera on your screen or wherever actually kind of gets you going. Because my biggest problem with academic writing is starting. It's not finishing. It's getting started, and I need the physical presence of the body doubling and someone else to be there, for me to kind of get going and keep going. So yeah, it by far cannot praise body doubling enough because it is just
They're
transformative. So
brilliant
yeah,
sessions. Like, again, so we call them co-working sessions, which are essentially the same thing, but we do them in the membership. At the moment, we have one official one a month, and then the members will do their own as and when. I think they've done one this week. There's one scheduled for next week. And it is literally, as Emma says, we I formalize them a little bit more. I'll go around the room and just go, what are you working on? What are you working on, for that accountability? And sometimes they don't. So I'll help help them decide. We literally hit a timer. We do sort of 45-minute sessions, jaunty tune at the end. And then I'll go around again, right, go, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? And they know that I'll be like, right, what did you do? Oh, you went window shopping on TK Maxx. Okay, to be fair, that's usually me. But and they're just great sessions, and you don't need to be part of a formal membership like the VA Village. You don't need to be part of a university. Set it up with a friend, set it up with a colleague. You
Well
might have
done.
heard of parallel. It's very much the grown-up version of parallel play. And I still do it as an adult now. Like I'm very, very happy to do boring things like list clothes on Vinted or clear out my wardrobe or garden. But damn well, I want someone there with me doing something different. They can be doing whatever they want, but I need someone with me to feel the motivation. This is the virtual version of that, and it makes such a difference, doesn't it, Emma?
Yeah, no, definitely. We do the accountability in the chat, because I've found if we did the verbal accountability, then we all end up talking and we don't actually start any work. So yeah, I know for myself, I have to have that kind of boundary in place where we're gonna, what are you working on? We set a timer. I prefer 15 minutes with 50 minutes with a 10-minute break, rather than, the 25 and 5 of the Pomodoro technique, which is always suggested. But for me, it takes me longer to get into a flow, and 25 minutes
I'm
is just not
exactly the
long
same,
enough.
Emma. I
Yeah,
need a
yeah.
longer chunk.
Yeah, but it's just about trying to be as disciplined with yourself as you can be, I suppose, but having that accountability of someone being there and saying, so what are you working on today? We're going to just fully concentrate for 50 minutes. You don't have to stop at 50 minutes if you don't want. If you find that you have worked on something completely different, but you're still being productive, then that's amazing. Even if you're looking at TK Maxx online, whatever your excitement is, just it's just about. And I think being a distance learner where you're 100% online, a lot of the time you can feel quite lonely, quite isolated. So it's trying to build that sense of community with other students. And thankfully for me, I found that through the neurodiversity network. And some students that I'm studying at the same time as, but it's not always that. I study part-time, so I release one module for a 10-week study block, apart from the last one when I released two. And yeah, that it was exhausting and hard work, but yeah, not for the faint-hearted. But it's just important to kind of, doesn't matter where you are, whether you're at work or whether you're at school or studying, you need to kind of find your people. You need to find people where you can be yourself in and around. And I've implemented like a breakout room in the full day. I call them writing, like academic writing retreats. But you're not allowed to call them that officially, but I'd have a body doubling session on from like 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. And then once I've had enough, if anyone else wants to stay, I'll just assign them as hosts and I'll leave. But it's just that physical presence of having someone there. Or you can go into a little breakout room if you feel overwhelmed and you're stuck and you need to talk. It's just all of these little tweaks that we can make that just makes our lives so much easier. And it also normalizes the fact that, I just sometimes will sit and get stuck looking at a blank Word document and think I don't know where the fuck to start. I prefer creating a mind map rather than I do writing an essay. So I've learned, to create the mind map first and then export it into a Word document, because then it's started. I don't have to stare at the blank screen forever. I prefer listening to kind of everything on audio. I've actually paid for some software that reads everything out to me in a natural sounding voice, called Speechify. I use that on my laptop and on my phone. And you can choose Snoop Dogg's voice if you like Snoop, or you can choose like a naturally sounding voice. That works. I don't read things now because I just can't take them in, can't read and take in information. But it's like that. Yeah, it's just trying to find what's really comfortable for you and what works well. And then just doing whatever you need to kind of get through the day, week, month, year, minute, second, hour, whatever it is. It's just about, you're making your own reasonable adjustments and kind of changing things as you go along. So yeah, fascinating. Another thing that I could talk about forever is just, being comfortable and confident to advocate for yourself and say, which is not always easy, that actually doesn't work well for me. Or maybe I've asked you a question and I still don't understand the answer. And then I'll ask you 5 times, and then eventually, like, you'll explain it in a way. I love a metaphor. I learn in metaphors. Like, my brain is just, or an analogy or whatever. Like, I need kind of almost a real world example of something. So yeah, when I was crying because I couldn't understand quantitative research methods, one of my lecturers back then said to me, well, just think about it like this. The 5-star review is the quantitative. So that's how, whether you get 1 or 5 stars, that's the numbers. And then the qualitative is the written feedback or review that you're giving. And I'm like, that just made sense. And then another lecturer said to me, like, we're going to talk, like, you're going to look at these quantitative research methods as if you're making your own cake. And I can't remember exactly what she said at the time, but it made sense. Like, you had to put all of these different ingredients in, you had to make sure they were all right. And I was like, yeah. And it's just, yeah, it's trying to find things that kind of help you to be able to achieve, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. And it starts with self-acceptance, like accepting that you need to find adjustments for yourself, and self-knowledge. What are the challenges, like not being ashamed of them. And I guess that's a really important part of what's happening here, diagnoses or not. Like, acknowledging now diagnoses are going to get harder and harder to get, waiting lists are going to get longer and longer. But acknowledging, if you have a challenge, what is that challenge? How can it be overcome? And as Emma and I have talked about, there's loads of ways you try. Like Emma mentioned Pomodoro. I also hate Pomodoro, but we use an adapted version of it that works for us. How have we been able to do that? We've tried, we've tested, and we acknowledged we needed something. Do you think we've reframed ADHD
Definitely
well today, Emma?
It, definitely, yeah. Tick box.
Have we done a amazing job of it?
We've done a fucking amazing job of reframing ADHD today. Yes, we have. Yeah. Oh my god, it's still made me cringe. I still don't know. Yes, we have done an amazing fucking job at reframing ADHD in the last 2 hours. So yeah, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of you. We've done an amazing job.
I'm proud of us. If anyone else is proud of us, please let us know through one of the myriad things. And in a year, I will come back on and you will praise yourself, hopefully without a cringe feeling.
Yeah. 2 hours and 3 minutes we've been here, and what an absolute pleasure it's been. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, Kayleigh, and just learning a bit more about you and what you do in your personal life with the kids and your family, but also what you do in your corporate life, or whatever you want to call it. What you do as a job is just fascinating. I've loved it. So yeah, I know we only said an hour, but I did say that we'd probably go off and be recording for a lot longer. I'm just like, I prefer a deep dive, and once we get into the conversations, then obviously, but we're helping other people, so I'm not gonna I don't have a problem with how long we sit here and talk to each other. So yeah, but thank you so much. Honestly, I definitely am going to talk to you after I've stopped to record, because I'm intrigued. I want to know and learn more about what you do and how I can get involved and stuff. So yeah, it's but yeah, it's been I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you today. Have you got anything that you would like someone that is either just starting to realise that they might have ADHD or autism, or someone who is waiting to be diagnosed or newly diagnosed? Is there anything that, when you were going through that process yourself, that you would like to have heard from somebody else? Is there anything that you'd like to kind of, just to end our 2-hour session today?
Yeah, it's something I get asked a lot, which is what if I'm making it all up? Like, what if I don't get diagnosed? What if I don't have it? And it's sort of two questions, which is, whether you get diagnosed or not, I mean, that would be a massive trauma if you think you have it and you didn't. But if you believe you have it, that is enough for you to take action. That is enough for you to listen to your symptoms and to change your life and to change how you do things in the way that we've described. So try and release that fear. It's a really natural fear. I had it as well. Sorry if you can hear all the background noise. Um, I had that fear as well, that I was making it up, that I'd managed to persuade, I'd said the wrong thing on my questionnaires, whatever. But firstly, you can't really, if you're honest, the truth will out. So try to release that fear, and regardless of what happens with diagnosis, act on it anyway. Act on it for yourself, because you can make things 100 times better.
And I think for me as well, nothing wrong with us. The way that I am is the way that I am. And just because, you know, other people are different to me or I'm different to them, there's nothing actually wrong with either of us. We just, you know, we are the way that we are. I was going to use the N word, the normal word, but what is normal? Help me define what normal is. And then, you know, I'm normal to me because I don't know any other way to be. So I just think it is about finding that self-acceptance, finding that confidence to just say, do you know what, I've got ADHD, or, you know, I'm autistic, or I've got dyslexia. It doesn't matter what the neurodivergence is. It's just about, you know, yes, we are different, but that's a good different. It's not a bad different. You know, I know there's different levels of, you know, functioning that each person can do, but it's about finding that one thing that ignites that fire in you, and that makes you, like, gets you butterflies in your tummy and makes you feel like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's about finding that and where that, and then once you find it, the one thing that you that makes you feel, you know, that is your purpose, then just nurturing it. And just remember, you know, there's nothing wrong with you. We're all just be comfortable with how you are. And yeah, and if you need to be reminded of that regularly, then contact me or Kayleigh, because we will remind you. I'm happy
We'll
to
tell
do
you how
that.
fucking bless you are.
Exactly.
All
And
of it.
yeah, so 2 hours and 8 minutes. Um, yeah, I always, my brain has just decided to have a fart. Um, I don't do a lot of editing, by the way, because I just prefer it to be as authentic as it can be. But for the listeners, if any of these conversations have resonated with you, if you would like to come on and be a guest, then please do reach out to me. Or if you'd like me to, or any of my guests to talk about a specific topic, then please do let me know. If this conversation has helped you today, if you resonated with it, if it's, you know, whatever we've talked about, whatever, if we've helped you, then I'm sure that we both would love to know that we've helped someone else, wouldn't we, Kayleigh? So it's not, you know, it's, yeah, so please do either comment on Spotify or wherever you listen, or yeah, you can reach out to me by the ADHD Reframe project at outlook.com. I'm saying it, yeah, yeah, that is right, yeah. I have to, my brain used to say, was that right? Yeah, and equally, if any of these conversations, if any of you are looking for some public speakers or motivational speakers, then please do reach out to me, because I'm happy to kind of do that as well. But yeah, Kayleigh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you, and yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank
Press
you so
stop
much for
now.
having me.
No,
It's
honestly,
been amazing.
yeah, it has. Yeah, thoroughly. I knew the minute that we were together, before I even hit record, that we were going to get on. So yeah, I'm just so grateful for the podcast, because I get to meet women like you. So yeah, thank you for your time today. And yeah, but yeah, so the listeners, bye for now, and yeah, behave yourself now. I don't know why I said that, but thank you.